Good morning. Good morning, Your Holiness. Today, I'm privileged on behalf of the Conference Organizing Committee to welcome His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, our keynote speakers, who has compassionately accepted our invitation to grace this online event to give an inaugural address followed by a Q&A session. It is also my pleasure to now welcome our opening remarks guest speakers, the Most Venerable Bhikshu Jin Yao, Chairman of the Buddhist Association of the Republic of China. Our next speaker would be the Most Venerable Nakukule Vimala Mahanakaye Thero, the Chief Prelate of Sri Lanka, Ramana Mahakinaya of Sri Lanka, and also the Most Venerable Dammapiya, Secretary General of the International Buddhist Confederation of India. And of course, to all our distinguished guests, venerables, and participants who are with us today. This Sanskrit and Pali International Buddhist Conference is initiated by Tibetan Buddhist Center, Singapore, under the guidance of and advice of Mr. Tenpa Tsirin, Professor Geshe Nawang Samten, and Geshe Doje Damdu, and is jointly organized by 12 international prestige Buddhist organizations across Asia Pacific and Russia, namely Oxford Buddha Vihara, Singapore, Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia, Vajrayana Buddhist Council of Malaysia, Buddha Dasa Indapano Archive Foundation, Thailand, International Network of Engaged Buddhism, Thailand, Sri Lankan Tibetan Buddhist Brotherhood Society, Buddhist Society of Western Australia, Buddhist Union of Kamkia, Russia, and also Department of Buddhist Study, Dhamma Institute of Liberal Arts, Taiwan, and Department of Religion and Culture, Shenzhen University, Taiwan, Kertarajasa Buddhist College, Indonesia, and last but not least, Lamsut Serapling, Korea. As everybody is aware, Buddhism is a religion that is practiced worldwide, that what we have believed by at least 500 million people. The basic Buddhist philosophy is interdependence and its practice of non-violence and compassion. Conviction overriding faith. It is also often referred as a science mind and is adaptable to the cultural practice of its follower. Broadly speaking, Buddhists can be categorized into those who follow the Pali tradition and those who ascribe to the Sanskrit tradition. Down the ages, there has been attempt by the Buddhist teachers, scholars, and leaders of the Pali Sanskrit tradition to convene, discuss, and set up international Buddhist organizations to appreciate and to rationalize differences in practice of various Buddhist communities in this world. The current era of internet communication and fast connectivity brings a unique opportunity for easier access to a virtual Sangha community and an online discussion. And because of this virtual connectivity, over the next 2 days, including today, we hear from more than 38 speakers and discussants from 14 countries on the topic of Tisikkha and Trishiksha, on the three training on the contents of the Tipitaka, Tripitaka. In today's inaugural sessions, followed by our 4 technical sessions and a valedictory session. Today's inaugural session will be moderated by Venerable Mahayano, one of our organizing committee members from Thailand. The technical session 1 on the theme Shila Shikha, a Vinaya session exclusively for monastic, will be chaired by Venerable Abbot Geshe Tsirin from Sarame Monastic University of India. There will be a concurrent technical session on the theme of Tisikkha and Trishiksha, Theory and Practice of the Lay Audience, chaired by Dr. Daminda Porridge from Sri Lanka. Tomorrow, we have 2 technical sessions. Technical session 2 on the theme of Samadhi Shikha, that will be chaired by Venerable Dhammapala from Malaysia. And tomorrow afternoon, technical session 3 is on Prana Shikha. It will be chaired by Professor Asanga Tilakarate from Sri Lanka. Last but not least, a valedictory session that will be chaired by Professor Geshe Nawang Samten, Vice Chancellor, Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies, Varanasi, India. We hope that this rich dialogue of this nature will be beneficial in fostering deeper inter-Buddhism understanding and greater harmony among the holders of different religion and faith, thus contributing to the effort made by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and various great global leaders over the past decades. With this inspiration in mind, we are motivated to continue to strengthen the model of building trust, progress, and success in the Buddhist intra-faith relation, and thereby sharing this wisdom with the wider interfaith world. And without further ado, I will now hand over to our moderator for today, Venerable Mahayano, to start the session. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Good morning, Your Holiness, distinguished most venerables, distinguished guests. The inaugural session shall begin with 3 opening remarks from 3 remarkable Sangha leaders from both traditions. And after the 3 opening remarks, I would like to humbly invite His Holiness the Dalai Lama to give the inaugural speech, which will be followed by a Q&A sessions with the audience. And this will conclude our inaugural session this morning. So firstly, I would like to introduce our first opening remarks speaker, Most Venerable Bhikshu Jin Yao. Most Venerable is the President of the Buddhist Association of the Republic of China and President of Taiwan Conference on Religion and Peace. Venerable had worked extensively on humanitarian issues, disaster relief programs, improving the lives of people in prison, and had received over 30 awards since 1993. So may I invite Most Venerable Bhikshu Jin Yao to give the opening remarks. Thank you.
Daniel, correct.
Taiwan.
May I invite Most Venerable Bhikshu Jin Yao to please give the opening remarks. Thank you. From Taiwan.
Amitabha, may all be auspicious. I am Venerable Jin Yao, the President of Buddhist Association of the Republic of China. First of all, I would like to express my thankfulness to Tibetan Buddhist Center of Singapore for inviting me to participate in this meaningful and important International Buddhist Conference by the title of the 3 trainings. We have to organize this event online this time due to this pandemic, but I'm very grateful and appreciative for having this precious opportunity to meet all of you here online. First of all, I would like to send my greetings and warm welcome to our special guests in this event, namely His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Most Venerable Makulive Mimala Mahanayake Thero from Sri Lanka, as well as all other venerables and scholars, and also Venerable Dammapiya, and all other guests, distinguished guests. I sincerely wish and pray for your good health and well-being. The topic of this conference is the 3 trainings in Pali and Sanskrit traditions of Buddhism. When I look at these lines, the very first thing that comes to my mind is that what is the purpose of the Buddha of propagating these teachings of the 3 trainings? Definitely, it is to help all mother sentient beings to liberate themselves from all sufferings and to attain ultimate peace and happiness. As human beings, we are constantly troubled by 2 major problems. When we are still alive, we are bound to have various problems such as physical illnesses and mental discomforts. And we also have other issues such as environmental problems, social issues, political instability, etc. According to the levels of our own merits, we will then experience different levels of happiness or unhappiness. But no matter how great or how less our merits could be, we are going to face a bigger and most crucial problem of all at the end, which is what will happen to us during the time of our death. So this is the second major problem that I'm talking about. So in order to permanently solve these 2 problems of ours, the Buddha had given us the guidance of following the Noble Eightfold Path to practice and attain. By practicing this Noble Eightfold Path, we are able to transcend and purify all our worldly problems without giving rise to negative emotions of ours and others. And we can face our death peacefully, fearlessly, and maybe we can go through it joyfully as well. Buddha taught about the Four Noble Truths and the 12 links of interdependent arising during his first turning of the wheel of Dharma, with the main purpose to make us know the suffering, dukkha, and to cut off the sufferings, to practice the path that leads to the cessation of the suffering, and lastly, to attain the ultimate state of peacefulness that we call nirvana. If you want to attain liberation and ultimately Buddhahood for the sake of all beings, we must therefore follow the teachings of the Buddha and to practice his instructions accordingly, with the attitude of gratitude and diligence. But how should we practice this then? We have to follow the gradual path and methods of the Noble Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. As we know, the scope of the Noble Eightfold Path is very wide, and it covers extensively the practices of the three trainings and the Four Noble Truths as well. We cannot establish the reality of the Four Noble Truths without having practiced the Noble Eightfold Path. And since the Noble Eightfold Path is inseparable from the Four Noble Truths, it is therefore closely related and inseparable from the 12 links of interdependent arising as well. We can therefore say that the 12 links of interdependent arising simply show us the reality of suffering. The Four Noble Truths embodies the process of pacifying these sufferings, and the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path will enable us to pacify completely the cause of these sufferings. The Noble Eightfold Path is actually the truth of the path that leads to the cessation of suffering, as mentioned in the Four Noble Truths. If we don't practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we won't be able to attain the wisdom of Nirvana. And if we don't attain the wisdom of Nirvana, we will not be able to completely relinquish the cause of suffering and attain the cessation of suffering. We will then be caught up in and forever entangled by the endless cyclic existence as indicated in the 12 links of interdependent arising. We are still being trapped in samsara and won't be able to attain liberation. Therefore, the truth of the path should be applied and utilized to totally relinquish the cause of suffering and to attain the state of cessation of the suffering. And these two truths, the truth of suffering and the truth of the cause of suffering, are none other than the causality of the three life, past, present, and future, of ours, as it was exemplified in the process of 12 links of interdependent arising. If we really want to obtain freedom of liberation from the 12 links of interdependent arising and the entanglement of samsara, we have no choice but to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. We can therefore conclude that the practice of the Noble Path is indeed the perfect antidote to the cyclic existence of samsara. We are bound to the cyclic existence of samsara due to the 12 links of interdependent arising. In short, the actual content of the Noble Eightfold Path is none other than the essence of the three trainings. So therefore, we have to practice sila, moral conduct, to pacify greed. We practice samadhi, meditation, to pacify hatred, and prajna, wisdom, to pacify ignorance. In short, if we diligently practice the three trainings of sila, samadhi, and prajna, we can definitely pacify or purify all of our greeds, hatred, and ignorance. About the essence of the three trainings, I would like to quote a verse mentioned in the Dammapiya. Tame your mind with sila or moral conduct, guard your thoughts with right samadhi or meditation. Practice inwardly shamatha, calm abiding, and vipassana, special insights, and attain the right wisdom with constant mindfulness. These 4 lines are actually the basic principles in the practice of Buddha Dharma. These 4 lines talk about a life of moral conduct, a life of spiritual calmness and peacefulness, and a life full of wisdom and wise insights. This is actually the practice and attainment of the three trainings. So when we say tame your mind with sila or moral conduct, it means we need to be constantly aware and take care of our body, speech, and mind so that they can be virtuous and non-harmful. When we say guard your thoughts with right samadhi or meditation, it means we should practice both shamatha and vipassana in order to bring our mind home to its original purity and peacefulness, and attain the right wisdom with constant mindfulness. This means we need to attain ultimate wisdom of enlightenment by practicing right knowledge, right views, right mindfulness, and right thoughts. Hence, as I mentioned before, if we diligently practice the three trainings of Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna, we can definitely pacify all of our greeds, hatred, and ignorance. What is the real meaning of Sila then? It doesn't mean that we are forbidden to say or do this and that, but we are simply guided and or instructed to know what should be adopted and what should be abandoned. In terms of our behavior, we must know what needs to be said or do, or what need to be avoided at all costs. For example, the non-virtuous deeds of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, etc., are all caused by our mental afflictions such as dissatisfaction, greed, hatred, etc. If we uphold the precepts and follow a lifestyle of moral conducts, we can therefore pacify all these negative emotions within our mind streams. So, tame your mind here means to pacify and purify all our negative emotions, such as the three poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance. When we tame or pacify our monkey mind, we will then become more stable, happier, and more peaceful human beings. And once we have stabilized or pacified our monkey mind, we need to also guard it mindfully so that it will not be disturbed by outer stimuli or distractions. Once we could make our mind stable, peaceful, and constantly uphold it into the state of calm abiding, our mind will then gradually enter into the state of right samadhi. Right samadhi comes from right mindfulness, but incorrect samadhi is totally the opposite of that. In order to protect our mind from being easily deluded and distracted by material world or outer conditions, we should try to nurture a mental state of contentment and also strive to practice shamatha and vipassana gradually and consistently. The practice of shamatha means to make our mind calm and peaceful, to focus our mind onto a particular state of being. And the practice of vipassana means we observe or watch the movement or stillness of our mind with penetrative insights, so that we could realize or attain the reality of all phenomena. If we could constantly and diligently practice shamatha and vipassana, our mind will become so peaceful, so calm, and so wise. In other words, if we don't give rise to any negative thoughts, there's already shamatha. If we can give rise to clear mind and observe its luminosity moment to moment, there's already vipassana. Without any evil thought is right mindfulness. And when we practice shamatha and vipassana with right mindfulness, we will then attain right samadhi and right meditation. From right samadhi, then we can attain right wisdom. This right wisdom is the opposite of wicked intelligence, which will only guide us astray to wrong paths such as confrontation, competition, and intention to harm or destroy others merely for one's own benefit. But right wisdom is the wisdom that enables us to be constructively decisive and proactive, to understand the universal law of cause and effect, to help and heal others, to make ourselves and others peaceful and happy, to protect us from being distracted by the 8 worldly dharmas, and to face, manage, and resolve all interpersonal issues and problems wisely and nicely. This is impartial wisdom, which is non-selfish and totally altruistic, unharmful, ahimsa, and therefore beneficial to oneself and others. Therefore, if we practice Sila in the 3 trainings, we can attain and protect our mental and physical well-being, which is holistic health. If we practice Samadhi, we will become more peaceful, calm, and stable in our thoughts and emotions. If we practice Prajna, the wisdom, then our mind will always be clear and pure, and we are able to handle our daily events and issues wisely, objectively, smartly, and decisively. And we can also bring more joy and happiness to others. In short, Buddhists or non-Buddhists, let us all practice these 3 trainings together so that we can co-create a more peaceful and a wonderful world for the sake of all mother sentient beings. Thank you, and may all of you be well and happy. Thank you. May all be well and happy. Amitabha.
Thank you, Most Venerable. Like we are an international conference now, so we will be translating your Most Venerable speech into English now. Thank you.
是。
Okay, so now, so next I would like to introduce our third opening remarks speaker, Most Venerable Dr. Dammapiya from India. Venerable Dr. Dammapiya is the Secretary General of the International Buddhist Confederation, or IBC, as a global umbrella of Buddhist body with membership drawn from 39 countries of over 320 organizations from both monastic and lay people, to preserve, share, and promote the Buddhist teachings and values in the global discourse. So now may I invite Most Venerable Dr. Dammapiya to give his opening remarks for our conference. Thank you.
Namo Tassa Bhagavatam Buddhassa Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. I take this opportunity to express my deep respect to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also greetings to all venerable members of Mahasangha, esteemed upasakas and upasikas, for who have come online on this online international Buddhist conference from different traditions across the globe. We are discussing today on the topic Trishiksha in Sanskrit or Tisikkha in Pali tradition. This is only a nomenclature or the names. Whether we call Trishiksha or Tisikkha, it refers to the same teachings of the Buddha. We may have different traditions, different branches, but our root is the same. Our Buddha is the same. Sakyamuni, the Buddha, and his teachings, Dhamma Vinaya. We all follow the same teaching, but in different languages, in different dialects, in different socio-geographical setup or socio-cultural background. As I have said, we have only one root in different branches, and it is really a great opportunity, and we are very much thankful to His Holiness for organizing this kind of coming together of different Buddhist traditions from different countries, different background, to prove that we coexist harmoniously among our Buddhist brethren, brothers and sisters. We follow either Nalanda tradition or Theravada tradition or other tradition, whatever we name, but we coexist. We understand our teaching is the same. So we already had some time back the dialogue on Vinaya, where we found there is no difference. Though the language, we preserve the teaching, the Vinaya is different, but essentially the Vinaya is the same. So also the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, is the same. So here, the teachings of the Buddha, the main teachings of the Buddha, it can be subsumed under Tisikkha or Trishiksha, that is Sila, Samadhi, Panya, as we understand. And the teachings of the Buddha is scientific. It is a science. And where to start? Basically, we see the starting point of the teachings of the Buddha, that Buddha himself has started. The first is dasana. In Pali, it's called dasana, means objective observation, knowing objectively the state of affairs that exist in the surrounding. That's what Siddhartha Gautama, when he set out to see things around his palace, he first observed the things around and he found that old man, sick man, dead body, and then the saint or the monk. That's for the observation. So Buddha's teaching starts with observation, objective observation. Know the things as it is. That is what very important, that Buddha's teaching is a scientific, it's a science. And next step in the Buddha's teaching, or in the process of learning, acquiring knowledge in Buddhism, is Passana. Passana means after you observe things, then you start questioning, what is there? You start analyzing how things happen. You start doing research, verifying, trying to understand deeply about the interdependent nature of things. It is not only one thing exists, but there are many things that exist. They are interdependent. That is actually Passana, trying to know things, the reality at the deeper level. That means when we proceed from Dasana to Passana, we are removing the element of blind faith. There is no blind faith in the Buddha Dhamma, in Buddhism, because we are directly trying to know the reality with objectivity, analysis, and direct experience. So there is no blind faith, and there is no element of accepting something which is not clear. Then next step in the process is Vipassana. In Vipassana, one goes deeper and deeper, and deepest level where one understands the Dhamma, the reality, the nature, at the energy level. At the energy level, that is in a very deepest level, only Kalapas, where one finds whatever things are there appearing to us, it is not solid. It is not how it appears to us. There is something deeper meaning whereby it comes the concept of anicca, dukkha, anatta. That means things appear to us as permanent, solid, but essentially it is not permanent. It is impermanent. It is continuous flux and flow. It's a flowing, anicca, impermanent. That's what it comes clearer at the deeper level when one does vipassana. Then dukkha, that means whatever things are floating, impermanent, it has the characteristics of unsatisfactoriness, dissatisfaction. That's how one comes to realize. That is, vipassana is a state of realization of this impermanent nature, and then the unsatisfactoriness, the satisfaction in whatever things that exist. And then anatta, that is the egolessness, selflessness, not I. We cling too much to I. So when we do vipassana, when we practice vipassana, then at that level, we find there is no I as such. No atma means no I, no ego. Nothing as something called self. So this is the realization of anicca, dukkha, anatta at the deepest level at vipassana when we do these things. And when we are talking about this Tisikkha, the Silasikha, Samadhisikha, and Panyasikha, it's very important that to have a right view, right perspective, right understanding of things. Until we have right perspective, right view, right mapping of the world and the life, then the life and also the world may lead to astray. That is what is happening nowadays. We are confronted with so many kind of challenges and crises cropped up due to wrong understanding or wrong perception that we are having about the world. We want more and more things in our life at the cost of destroying animals, nature, and the forest, environment. So human greed has caused so much suffering to the world. This is a wrong understanding about life. That is why we need this Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, Panna Sikha to have the right understanding of things, the interdependent nature of things. It is not that we only human beings to exist. We think we are intelligent, powerful, and we can command over everything in the universe, in the world. That is not the case. Even if we can do that, but it will have negative impact on us because we are not dependent, we are interdependent. That is what we have to understand. And the Samadhi Sikha, it is a process of purifying the mind, cultivating the mind, developing the mind and heart both, the Chitta and the Hridaya. So when we go to the second stage of the Sikha, that is Samadhi Sikha, a person's mind and heart can be developed, a purified mind, a compassionate mind, which is very necessary nowadays, very necessary, where we have seen the whole world is undergoing through a crisis of extremism, violence, and so much of materialism. Here we need this something called Majjhima Patipada, that is the middle path, where we have to have a moderation in our behavior, moderation in our approach, moderation in our action, moderation in our thought, lifestyle. So moderation or the middle path is very much relevant here. That is how actually Samadhi and Panya Sikha both are very much relevant here. When a person develops the mind, cultivates the mind, and purifies the mind, and achieve the state of a compassionate heart and purified mind, and if all the human beings collectively follow this Sikha, both all the Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, and Panya Sikha, then what will be the result is it will have positive impact in the society, in the world at large. So at last, I would like to conclude by saying the relevance of the Tisikkha is very much important to have a compassionate heart and clear and purified mind, and also a right perspective, a right view about the world, to have a balanced mind, avoiding all extremism, violence, and to have a peaceful, harmonious coexistence and sustainable development in the world. Thank you so much, everybody. Bhavatu Sabba Mangala.
Thank you, Most Venerable Dr. Dammapiya, for your opening speech. As we all know, we are all the same Buddhists. We spread out throughout the world, and this is actually maybe the first time that we can actually get together as one Sangha member and unite for the same cause of following the footsteps of the Buddha. And as members of one united Sangha, Your Holiness, following the teachings of the same Buddha, all of us here, we are grateful that we have Your Holiness as an example of how all the Buddhist teachings of compassion and wisdom can truly manifest into reality. As now both Buddhists of the Pali and the Sanskrit traditions have come together to share the precious teachings of the Buddha that has been passed on throughout different generations in our respective traditions of Pali and Sanskrit. Now, we would humbly like to request Your Holiness to please give us the inaugural speech for our conference that we have come together today, and which would be followed by a Q&A session afterwards. So please, Your Holiness, please give us your wise words. Thank you.
Thank you. No. Thank you. 관계 조선에서는 담배전에 변제 과잠자로 차서로 다 들이대 왜 유주 카카셰
we have participants from different Buddhist countries.
다 간다에네 또 누운지부터 지금 들이대 차셔
monastics, the holders of Vinaya
tradition, 제 가서다
I myself
감미주야 고급 정보
been
그거는 시지
invited here
시라가총
to speak, and I
다음에 지난주 무튼이
happy
초대 그러봐 자상가 아니
to be here. So
제
after this
가다베
session, you will continue
구두체야다
your
드즈체디 그 속구치야
and I hope there will be openness
상에 저어라 가다 구두체가 그들이야
exchanging your views with one
신가라즈 시 다른 가라즈 심지 때문에 그들이야
when we study the
각샤
classical
봉송스
we
그래서 신루
speak
가보
of
신루 샤보 달라 저 봉스잖아요 그래서 두스 뭐 타치를 전달이야 어다 각샤 봉송도 계속 쉬어요래 제 소스融入 샤보 되지고 마도 셰쇼 멤버체 사들이 인도 지나서대 구두 14-15년 돼야게 로예
classical traditions. Likewise, I hope there will
가다
be
산제게 최디
openness in your exchanges.
로니도
Generally
말게
speaking,
하침부치기
with the Shakyamuni's
가다다
teaching has flourished
가수리
on this
추규
since
추규
2,500
시작돼요.
years ago. And now it's a major
그렇게
religious
해서
tradition in this world,
저번에 디가리아
on this earth.
제 당원 남번 맹년도 되기
Even in
세상에
countries
비춰야
where Buddhism has not
그냥
flourished in the
당시로
past,
제일 전에 그런 믹스지에 되지
take a keen
너는
interest
천지에 나네
in
도난신에
Buddhism. And even among the scientists, there is a very strong interest in the Buddha's teachings.
당 알아서 넘기 저기 태고 처음부터 태고 중무사
Usually we
시거래
use the term
이 책이
Mahayana
약하면도
and Hinayana,
내 넘기
greater
뒤시기를
vehicle and lesser
아니,
vehicle. I'm not
레자게
particularly
주기다
fond of
빨리 주기시니
these two terms. I
게임
use the term
안에다
Sanskrit tradition
이어지야지.
and Theravada tradition.
아니 가나도 참을로 아니
All of us,
빨리 주기
basically,
나느냐
for
뇌
example,
냠시
in Pali
tradition
tradition,
냠시들이
the Vinaya practice, the practice of monasticism,
나가는 시기 나는데
through
레자게
trainings,
주기 샤샤네
very vast.
러버슨 거 냠는데 또
And also in Sanskrit tradition, the practice of the three trainings
참을로 가다 결론
forms
두원즈버
the core essence of the Buddha's teachings.
쟤네
And beginning from Nagarjuna, all the great
밀집다서도 좀 된대
upholders of Mahayana
침내고 러도
have been monastics. And we look up to Shakyamuni as the founder of Buddhism. And he followers, and Buddha himself was a monastic. Was a monk.
뇌 냠네 디디 힘을 샤
So when in our Nalanda tradition, when Dhamma is
기주의 개인의 도수 여러 개인에다 또르데
we put emphasis on monasticism.
요소와 아니 결론부터
Although we have different kinds of monastic vows,
쟤네다
the vows of bhikshu and bhikshunis, that's considered the peak among the Vinaya vows. Likewise, the practice of Vinaya or monasticism is the foundation in Pali tradition. Likewise, it is the foundation in our Mahayana tradition. As for myself, from one side, from one perspective, being a human being on this earth, I consider it as one of my responsibilities to spread love and affection or love and compassion in this world, irrespective of whether people believe in reincarnation or not, or karma or not. I consider this is spreading the message of compassion as my first commitment. And as a religious practitioner, although we have different religious traditions, irrespectively, all religious traditions speaks of the need to practice love and compassion. And despite of philosophical differences, we have the same message. Likewise, even in Buddhism, we have different philosophical viewpoints, but the essential practice of love and compassion is same. And due to different mental inclinations and also propensities, we have different philosophies are needed. But as humans, we are taught by all religious traditions to be compassionate and truthful. If, broadly speaking, if I divide the religious traditions on this earth, they could be classified into two. One that adheres to the concept of creation, and another that doesn't adhere to the concept of creation. So the theistic tradition speaks of all of us in our entirety being created by the great God, the Creator, who Himself is of utmost, is in the nature of great compassion. So being created by the great Creator, who is extremely compassionate, it is inevitable that we should have this. We should also uphold His nature in us, embody His nature in us. And then in our non-theistic traditions such as Buddhism, particularly in Buddhism, we have two traditions, Nalanda tradition and Pali. These two traditions are actually based on two different languages, Sanskrit and Pali. And Pali tradition forms the very foundation of Buddha Dhamma. As I told you earlier, even in Mahayana tradition, the Vinaya tradition is the very foundation. And we have different traditions in Vinaya, for example, Sarvastivata, Masamkika, and so forth. So what the Vinaya tradition that we have in Tibet is Mula Sarvastivata tradition. And then Mula Sarvastivata tradition and Dhammapaya tradition, these two traditions have flourished in China. So all of these Vinaya traditions follow the self-liberation sutras and practice self-liberation vows. So the Pali tradition is the foundation of Buddha Dhamma. In India, Nalanda was a great institution for the preservation of culture. So in Nalanda University, since Sanskrit was the official language practiced by the scholars, so the tradition of Nalanda was preserved in this Sanskrit language. And in Tibet, Shandarakshita, who was a great Nalanda master, was invited. And the Tibetan king at that time, King Tenzong Desen, seeing that India is the very root of the very source of Buddha Dhamma, the origin of Buddha Dhamma, although at that time Buddha Dhamma has already flourished in China, and despite that, King Tenzong Desen of Tibet invited Shandarakshita to Tibet. So at that time, Shandarakshita advised the Tibetans that since you have a different script, aside different language, instead of learning or studying, instead of learning Pali or Sanskrit, you should translate these texts into Tibetan. And then based on that translation, if you were to engage in study, contemplation and meditation or the teachings, that would be really helpful. So with such advice, we have Tibetans have translated more than 108 treatises in from Buddha's own sutras from Sanskrit. And among them, we have around 13 treatises on Vinaya. And also, when it comes to the vehicle of on wisdom, we have very vast number of treatises. On top of those sutras translated into Tibetan, we have also translated the commentaries by Indian masters, which we call as Dengyur or the commentarial translations, running into more than 200 treatises. So all of these texts are now available in Tibetan. That's what we study. These are what we study. So the Buddha tradition that has flourished in Tibet has been introduced by Chandarakshita. And that this tradition is really comprehensive. And then there is so much emphasis on epistemology or logic. Chandarakshita himself had composed a text on Buddhist epistemology or art of reasoning. So these are texts on logic. Brahmadavartika is one such text. So when relying on such texts of epistemology, what we learn to do is we simply don't rely on the text literally, but investigate on the meaning of the text, analyze on the meaning of the text. And then past Indian masters such as Nagarjuna and so forth, they all explain their teachings through reasoning. Particularly Diknak and Dharmakiti, these two apostles of Buddhist logic. They have composed their text. For example, the text Brahmanavartika by Dharmakiti is one of the main texts that we study in Tibet. For myself, since the age of 7 or 8, I have studied Brahmanavartika, like the preliminary logic and mind system of Buddhism. So from childhood, I have studied them. So in Tibet, there is a widespread interest in the tradition of logic. And this Buddhist art of reasoning is very, very important. Nowadays, in a modern world, the world has progressed so much in science. And the approach of modern scientists is they rely on reasoning. Likewise, as Buddhists, if we were to rely literally on Buddha's teaching, then there will be some difficulties. However, Buddha Shakyamuni himself has given us this freedom. All bhikshus and scholars, just as a goldsmith would rub the gold, grind it, cut it to get the purity of the gold. Likewise, you should also do the same thing with my teachings. So Buddha Shakyamuni himself has given us this permission to investigate his own teachings. So therefore, the text of Brahmanavartika or logic or reasoning are very important. So therefore, I would like to advise those following the Pali tradition to give importance to the study of epistemology or logic or reasoning. And apart from the text on Brahmanavartika, we also have text on Rajaparamita. And we have 21 commentaries to the Rajaparamita Sutras. So all of these has been, these different commentaries, 21 commentaries by Indian masters have been explained in greater detail by Tsongkhapa in his Golden Rosary of excellent instructions. So the texts on Brahmadavattika, Prachaparamita, and Madhyamika, these are very, very important for all of us to study. And among Tsongkhapa's writings, he has given more emphasis on these three topics, and hasn't written much on Abhidhamma and Vinaya, because in Abhidhamma and Vinaya there is less usage of reasoning. And so in Vinaya, you simply adhere more, there is more emphasis on adherence to Buddha's words and reasoning. And Vasubandhu, who composed the Dhamma, Abhidhamma text, Abhidhamma Koshikariga, for example, Indian scholars like Dharma, Gupta, Tiknak, Vasubandhu, these their own way of presenting ultimate reality has been rejected by Chandrakirti. When it comes to the understanding of the mental factors as explained in Vasubandhu's Abhidhamma Koshakarika, there isn't much we have there in terms of the views. And also as far as these, the explanation of the physical world is concerned, the natural world is concerned, the universe is concerned, I feel Vasubandhu's explanation, especially of explanation of Mount Meru in the middle, being surrounded by other universes, I feel those shouldn't be taken literally. And also as far as the distance between the earth and the moon and sun, what has been explained in Vasubandhu's text couldn't be taken literally. Sun is far much further than the moon in terms of its distance from the earth. So I feel like because of old age, Vasubandhu was not able to see the distance properly, so he might have made a mistake there. So that's sometimes I jokingly explain why it happened. So when Vasubandhu explains the universe as having Mount Meru and so forth, it's difficult to accept his teachings on them literally. But when it comes to Vinaya, then we have the monastic vows, which has a lot of teachings on the monastic practice, such as the 253 precepts for the monastics and so forth. So very vast. So in Tibet, we have a very comprehensive study on these 5 classical treatises. Particularly, the study is complemented with the study of Brahman logic. And so this study is, the studies on these texts are carried away through reasoning. So because of such emphasis on logic, and since we don't rely on scriptural authority and give more precedence to reasoning, it becomes very easy for us to interact with modern scientists. So since all of you, the scholars and the monastics, are going to have discussions on the 3 trainings, I would like to say this. Buddhism nowadays on this world is drawing interest in places where it has never ever been known in the in some secluded places around the world. And so because of that, now it's very important for us to have good interaction with one another. And with the foundation in Vinaya, we should practice concentration and wisdom. And of course, I'm sure you will carry on this practice properly. But nowadays, even among those who have no interest in Dharma, the wisdom, practice of wisdom, and practice of concentration are actually very much relevant to those who have no religious tradition at all. And then when coming across convergent points, that's a different thing. But if there are divergences, then we have to see how they need to be interpreted. Some questions?
Any question?
Thank you, Your Holiness. As we have seen that it must have been very, very difficult for our masters in the past to come together, especially in different languages and cultures, to learn from one another. And today, with our technologies and difficulties, there are some technical difficulties as well, so we'll try to get through to that. And today, before the Q&A session with Your Holiness, I would humbly like to ask for Most Venerable from Sri Lanka to give a few words before Your Holiness proceed with the Q&A session just shortly after this, if I may. So just for now, I would like to invite another remark speaker from Most Venerable from Sri Lanka, Most Venerable Makulawe Vimala Mahaniyake Thero. Venerable is the Supreme Head of Sri Lanka Ramana Mahanikaya, and Most Venerable had been joining us today with the honorable title of Akra Mahapandita, which was conferred to him from Myanmar in 2019. So today, before the Q&A session with Your Holiness, I would like to ask Most Venerable from Sri Lanka to please give his opening remarks to our conference. Thank you, Venerable. So Most Venerable Makulawe Vimala Mahaniyake Thero is the Supreme Head of the Sri Lankan Ramana Mahanikaya. He has great impacted the Buddhist, religious, and educational sectors, and both in the national and the international level from Sri Lanka. So now, please, Most Venerable, I would like to ask you to give the opening remarks. Thank you. Most Venerable Makulawe Vimala Mahaniyake Thero. As you can see, this conference has been started and gone. We've been working together for 15 countries. We translate into 15 languages today, so a few technical issues might occur. So maybe Most Venerable. Oh, okay. Thank you, Most Venerable. Please proceed. Yes. So Most Venerable Makulawe Vimala Mahaniyake Thero from Sri Lanka provide us with the opening remarks for our conference today. Okay, thank you. The setting up has been very challenging for all these different countries to come together. So thank you all for your patience. Most Venerable, you can proceed. Thank you.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Most Venerable Bhikshu Jin Yao, Most Venerable Dr. Dammapiya, the members of Mahasangha, erudite speakers, scholars, delegates, distinguished guests and participants. I must thank you all for inviting me to address this Dhamma gathering, because it is my duty as a Buddhist monk to help everyone to lead a good life. To lead a good life, Trishiksha, namely Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, play a very significant role. The pathway to the Nibbana, also known as Majjhima Patipada, middle pathway, or the Noble Eightfold Path, preached by the blessed Supreme Buddha, is composed of a mass of virtues, the Sila, concentration, Samadhi, and wisdom, Panya. Virtue is to tame the body and the speech. Concentration is the focus of the mind, and wisdom is the supreme insight that is able to see the true nature of the world. The Supreme Buddha discoursed in the Pali Nibbana Sutta that the concentration based on the virtues is greatly advantageous. That is, virtuousness helps our concentration. Samadhi pari pavito panna hoti mahani samso. Therefore, it is the wisdom of the path and its fruition that are based on concentration. So therefore, it is greatly advantageous. It is said that Samadhi helps one to attain supreme enlightenment. The Buddha also said that the mind, which is born out of wisdom, will be free from associations and will realize the enlightenment through the fruition of arhatships. Therefore, virtuous behaviors leads to concentration, Samadhi, and the strong concentration that leads to the purification of the wisdom of that was derived from the insight meditation. The virtue, Sila. Virtue, Sila, means the fourfold virtues. Those are the virtues of rules proclaimed by the Buddha, Pratimokkha Sila, the virtue of taming of the senses, Indriya Samvara Sila, the virtue of purifying the livelihood, Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila, and the virtue of using requisite Pachaya Sani Siddha Sila. Patimokha Samvara Sila is the virtue of rules proclaimed by the Buddha. The virtue of higher ordained monks that is composed of 227 Patimokha rules and billions of small rules, 10 major rules and the Sekhiya rules for the Samaneras, and rules for the lay persons that comprise of 5 precepts, 10 precepts, etc. Those are we call the practice of Patimokha. The Supreme Buddha preached the discipline of the Patimokha Samvara Sila, saying that accordingly, if a bhikkhu or a person behaves appropriately, knowing the appropriate and inappropriate places to behave, and etiquettes of behavior, he is afraid of even the slightest offense. And if he disciplines the precepts enacted by the Supreme Buddha, it is the practice of Patimokha. Sense control, Indriya Samvara Sila, is the taming of the senses such as the eyes, ears, nose, etc. It is the practice of the senses to see the images with the eyes and to take them away without taking any of their signs, symptoms, or imprints. The Supreme Buddha preached the discipline of the Indriya Samvara Sila, saying that capturing the signs or nimitti of the images seen by the eye, such as male or female, auspicious or inauspicious that creates the defilements, is an eye-opener. The hands, feet, smiles, stars of speech, looks, etc. of the image that's seen are called Vijnana Jana. It is also an eye-opener to look at these images in this way. Therefore, the sense of control is formed by considering the way in which the Blessed One spoke, such as without seeing the signs of implication of what is seen with the eyes. Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila is the practice of avoiding the wrong livelihood and adjusting one's life for the correct livelihood. He enacted 6 precepts of livelihood for the monks, and the purification of those precepts and the abstinence from the wrong livelihood such as Kuhana, Labana, Nemiddhikata, Nibbesikata, etc. The virtue of livelihood can also be called abstinence from the erroneous traits of alcohol, drugs, weapons, poisons, animal trade for meat, and the slave trade, which the Supreme Buddha said should not be practiced by virtuous beings who wish to attain Nibbana. Pachaya Sanisita Sila is the practice of consuming the requisites such as food, clothing, household, medicine, etc., considering consciously. The Buddha advises that a bhikkhu should reconsider every time he consumes these four requisites. This practice of fourfold virtues is called the virtues. This virtue practice helps us to strengthen our concentration. Next, the concentration or samadhi. Concentration is a state of mental focus. Samadhi is the careful keeping of the mind so that it is not scattered in any one state of the mind, as stated in Ekaramani Chitta Chitta Sikanam Sama Sama Cha Adanam Samadhi. So it is stated in this sutta that it can be interpreted in many ways as Upachara Samadhi, Apana Samadhi, etc. The samadhi that arises before apana, which is the absorption, is called upachara samadhi. 6 anusati meditations such as Buddha anusati, the upasamanusati, and the marana anusati, the particular sana of foods, and the chatu dhatu vavadana give upachara samadhi.
Etc. The virtue of livelihood can also be called
apana samadhi is a concentration from the first absorption, etc. Accordingly, rupa avachara, first absorption, second absorption, tertiary absorption, and fourth absorption, and arupa avachara absorption that are akasana chayatana, vinana chayatana, akichana Nayatana, Neva Sanana, Sanayatana are also what we call as concentrations.
This comprises of using the requisite consideration such as Patisankhayo.
Next is wisdom, Panna. Panna is insight knowledge associated with the wholesome mind. It is a wisdom that is capable of realizing the fruition of the path by understanding the truth of impermanence, dukkha, suffering, misery, no self, and detachment from the rituals. A sign is a recognition of something as, for example, blue, yellow, etc., just by seeing it. Consciousness is the realization of the transcendental features of what is to be known or seen.
The absorption is called Upachara Samadhi. 6 Anusati meditations such as Buddhanusati.
It is wisdom that makes one understand the transcendental path to the realization of such transcendental features.
From the first absorption, etc. Accordingly, Upavachara, first absorption, second absorption, tertiary absorption, and fourth absorption, and Arupavachara absorption.
The way in which a child, a villager, and a goldsmith knowing about a piece of gold are quite different. A child who knows nothing can play with it without knowing anything about a piece of gold. Such is a sign of recognizing something. A village man does not know its value exactly. That recognition is our consciousness. A jeweler recognizing a piece of gold correctly, that is the wisdom of understanding. Accordingly, the wisdom associated with the insight meditation, which sees the true nature of impermanence, misery, and infinite nature of the samkaras correctly and attains nibbana through the realization of the path, is called the wisdom or panna. Next, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path spoken by the Supreme Buddha as a middle pathway is composed of the 3 masters of virtuous behavior, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya. Arahan Dhammadina Anand preached in the Chula Vedala Sutta to Visakha devotees that the Noble Eightfold Path is composed of the 3 masters of virtuous behavior, sila, samadhi, and wisdom. Accordingly, right speech, samavacha, right action samakamata, and mode of livelihood samajiva are integrated into the virtue sila skandha, right effort samayamana, mindfulness samasati, and rapture or right meditation samasamadhi are in the category or the basket of concentration, samadhi kanda, and the right view, samadhi, and aspiration, samasakapa, are integrated into the mass or category of wisdom or panya. In performing any wholesome deeds with the wisdom, at least some of these elements are completed. They are integrated with the sila, concentration, and wisdom masses. That wisdom associated with wholesome deeds completes the right view. Right aspiration is a wholesome aspiration. Right speech, right actions, right mode of livelihood associated with wholesome deeds are the respective elements. The virtuous spiritual energy is the right effort. Mindfulness associated with the wholesome deeds is the mindfulness element. The mental factor of concentration is then the right concentration, samadhi. Thus, the perfection of the Noble Eightfold Path, the frequency of our virtuous deeds, concentration and wisdom, is actually the path of enlightenment spoken by the Supreme Buddha. The Supreme Buddha said that the one who cultivates it well will then achieve the ultimate result of liberation and ultimate freedom. Sili pitiyana naros pano citam panachara bhavaman tapi nipako bhikkhu so imam vijataya jatam. Thus the Buddha said, the bhikkhu, who is based on the fourfold purification of virtues and who is growing in mental concentration and wisdom, and who is endowed with the wisdom on purifying the defiled energies, realizes nibbana by losing all the entanglements of desires of samsara.
Thank you, Most Venerable.
At the end, may you be blessed with the Three Ratna, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha.
Thank you, Most Venerable Makilube Vimala Mahani Thero. Most Venerable is joining us from all the way from Sri Lanka, which is not an easy thing to arrange this big conference that we are doing today. So thank you everyone for joining us today. As you can see, many traditions, many languages coming together is not easy at all. So it's not an easy task to bring together the Buddhists of the Pali and Sanskrit tradition. So now we would come to the Q&A session where the audience had sent in questions to ask Your Holiness to please guide us on how we can connect and come together as one Buddhist Sangha in the Pali and Sanskrit tradition. So now we would like to start our Q&A session with Your Holiness, if I may. All of these questions would be in English, and we would respond accordingly. So our first question, I would like to ask Venerable An from Vietnam to please ask your question to Your Holiness at this time. Venerable An, thank you.
To see you here. And good morning, most venerable speaker and distinguished guests. So thank you for giving me opportunity to ask the question. So my question is, how can we build up the bridge between Pali and Sanskrit tradition? Thank you.
As I mentioned, the Vinaya or Pratimoksha, that is the same Pali tradition and Sanskrit tradition, both. So, like this kind of meeting, the scholars, practitioners, so both a tradition together and exchange And it becomes very clear, same. And Vinaya is same basis of Buddhist practice. Shila, Shamatha, also same. Then Vipassana,
No.
Vipassana, then there are different, even within, the Sanskrit tradition, there are a different school of thought. Mainly Vipashik, Sodantik, Chitta Mantra, and the Madhyamika, like that. So there are differences. The Vinaya practice is foundation and same, both as the tradition. So like this kind of meeting, I want to say most welcome, very important meeting. Thank you. Now next question.
Thank you, Your Holiness. We would have 2 more questions for this session. So our next question from Ms. Tan Lian Chu from Singapore, please. Thank you.
Good morning. Tashi Delek from Singapore, Your Holiness. Thank you for this great honor and privilege to be with you and everyone else at this conference here today. My question is, would it be possible for the Pali and Sanskrit traditions to find enough common ground from the 3 trainings, translated into secular terms and used as teaching curriculum in schools for general moral education?
Since common practice, there are many common practice. So you see, school student, you see, the essence, you see, don't harm other and respect others' right. That's the basis. So all from Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition, you can take the advice. So certainly can do. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, Vinaya practice is same, common. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Your Holiness. So now we come to our last question for today from Brother Tan from Malaysia. Brother Tan from Malaysia, please ask your question.
Morning, Your Holiness. Tashi Delek, thank you for this opportunity. My question is, how to be a good Buddhist?
Oh.
Thank you very much.
I think Buddham Shanam Gajami, Dhammam Shanam Gajami, Sangham Shanam Gajami. Not only just to repeat that word, but what is Buddha, what is Dharma, what is Sangha? You see, with some understanding, then Buddham Shanam Gajami, Dhammam Shanam Gajami, Sangham Shanam Gajami, and automatically become Buddhist. Okay. Then, more in detail, what is Buddha, what is Dharma, what is Sangha? More in detail as to the explanation, you need more study, like that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Your Holiness. So this would conclude our Q&A session for today. And thank you, Your Holiness, for giving us the inaugural speech for our main conference that is coming up today and tomorrow on Trishiksha. This is the conference that comes together with the Buddhist from both traditions, from Pali and Sanskrit traditions. Your Holiness, most venerables, and all beings in this great assembly, uniting the Sangha of different traditions, not to be the same, but to be harmonious, has been Your Holiness' wish for a very long time. So we thank you for being our great inspiration, Your Holiness, and may we wish that your wish for benefiting all beings would manifest. And this would conclude our inaugural session this morning, Your Holiness. Thank you so much. And
I myself, as a follower of Buddha and Bhikshu, and also some sort of knowledge through study from childhood. So I very much appreciate this kind of meeting. So I hope annually this kind of meeting, more serious discussion will be very useful. So I'm looking forward our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Thank you, Your Holiness. Our heartfelt appreciation and thanks for your presence today, and also to the most venerable opening remarks speakers for taking their time to be with us today. With us online today are the monastic members and the public audience from various countries. And we hope that today's inaugural session revive and pave the starting points towards more future dialogues and exchanges among Buddhist scholars of the Pali and Sanskrit tradition. With this today, I'll wrap up the session and see you all at the technical session this afternoon and tomorrow. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Your Holiness. See you soon.
집에 소리 쇼. 이거 보여주다 이제 뭐 군도상 못해한테 대다 끊지쳐서 달로지 개원되다 단저로도 뭐 두수십에 겨워다 뭐가나 쇼는 가고. See you again.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
Thank you, Your Holiness.